Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings here in this little piece of the universe. Yeah, oh, whatever it is, this blob of atoms, electrons, protons, little bits of stuff stuck, pressurized into an arrangement with each other. And some little portion of whatever that crap is, behind the skin and the bones, this crap, gray matter they call it, there's little pieces of it that seem to think there's an important agenda that needs to be discussed. Well, things need to be fixed. It's recognizing a broken and it's saying you should fix broken things. Makes sense. So anyway, so it's the agenda of me, just a human, and pondering the question. I mean, just marveling, just sitting here saying it's just too strange, too weird, there's no real explanation for just how diverse and silly human beings are. I mean, there's just no reason for us to be so different. No good reason. And you certainly don't see it in like animals, the regular animals, the other animals. They have such a similarity. They all kind of moo the same and do all the crap pretty much the same. To their breed. The programming doesn't seem to get this, whatever, all over the place. But humans have this capacity because they're not rigidly programmed by nature. They're programmed by exposure to the world. And they can open their eyes and, they can see 10 feet or they can see 20 feet and they can see 30 feet. And, if they can see more than 30 feet, they should be able to figure out certain things like the world is round and all that kind of stuff. And we shouldn't have to explain it, It doesn't take much logic, to get it. And yet people don't get it. The obvious things, the things I'd say are just so obvious, and it needs to be fixed. You could almost argue it's it's like, in the past when the disabled person, without legs or something, was hobbling around in the dirt and the mud. Somebody should say, well, civilization should do something about that. We should take care of people that are broken. Because, we have this competitive game thing that we're playing, where we're all trying to race each other and jump hurdles and do all this stuff. And they obviously can't play the same game. And so we should take care of that. Shouldn't let suffering just happen right there in front of us and ignore it. Because we're civilized and sensible. So anyway, eventually I'll get to a comment sent to me by email for whatever dumbass reason by some nihilist asshole trying to rationalize nihilism, which is just so stupid. And you're just saying, well, how can a brain be this dysfunctional? I mean, how can people be this stupid? It's not possible, really. It's not. I just don't know how you do it. How do you do it? I'm just trying to imagine how I could have done it. Been this stupid. And I just can't see the path. I can't see how I could be on this planet and I could draw these wacky, silly conclusions. Unless I had some psychosis or something that made it impossible to see the truth. And somehow I don't know. I still can't figure it out. Can't figure out how, even people that have really stupid impulses, sucky ones, like, they actually do feel good, watching somebody else being tortured or torturing somebody or having the power to torture people or molesting kids and all that kind of stuff, that there would still be a thought in their head saying, well, I know this is, dangerous and I'm fucking with somebody else's welfare and, I really shouldn't do that and I should find some other way to gratify myself because, that's sort of an exploitation and blah, 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 blah. That the truth would be rolling around in their head, talking to them, saying, I'm the truth and you should pay some attention. But yeah, so I get it. Sometimes people just have impulses that are just too powerful and they can't control themselves. They can know it's wrong to hit their wives and they can hit their wives. There are people like that, who, there's some who just don't give a shit. And then there's some who, yeah, they gave a shit, but they just can't stop themselves. They just get in the heat of the moment and they lose being able to pay attention to the voice saying don't do it. So that's that's at least understandable. But in the conversation you're having with other people, why does it have to be that you have to defend the part of you is bullshit? I mean, why can't you just tell the truth? It's like even the vegetarian argument. This has come up multiple times because people make all kinds of accusations. Or even the anti-natalist argument, like somehow if somebody previously had kids, I should not like them and I should punish them, even though they're already an anti-natalist. They've already figured out that they were wrong, and somebody who is a meat eater and they know it's wrong, they'll vote against, they'll vote for policies that will make meat eating grandfather it out. It's like even myself as a nicotine addict, I can certainly vote for a death penalty for anybody who gives nicotine products to a kid. I'd vote for it. Me being an addict doesn't mean I'm defending something. It just means that I personally can't do much about it. But I'll do something to save the future from the same problem. I'll do whatever it takes to prevent it happening to somebody else, but I can't change what happened to me, kind of thing. So why can't people be rational? Why are they defending nonsense? Because they need to defend some other crap, and it would be really nice too if we all had to wear labels for what kind of crazy fuck we are. In the sense that we were all profiled. Asked a few questions just so you could know why people are as dumb as they are. Do they believe in a God? Really? Do they really think so? What are the odds? If they had to bet their house on it, would they bet their house on it? Are they just talking this fluff, okay, because it's the socially acceptable thing to do and all that kind of crap? So anyway, when somebody's emailing me, they don't need to be a liar and a fraud and a fake and a phony, an anonymous email from anonymous coward, and they still can't be honest. And it's just pathetic. Because clearly the only reason why you would defend nihilism is because you're a selfish psychotic. There's nothing else about the philosophy that has any integrity. This notion that if it doesn't affect me now, today, it's irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just supposed to operate on impulses. I'm not supposed to be aware of the fact that I change the world every moment I'm living in it, and those changes will affect people who will, in fact, exist tomorrow, and maybe 10 years from now, and all of that stuff. And that's all facts. How can they negate such overt facts? So... yeah, I don't, it's just so hard to where to take all this, because it does blend into the physics arguments, and, because people are just so clueless. So I'm going to mention, just because a little piece of the neuron sparked and said, Sabine Hossenfelder, but she made some video kind of implying, kind of stating that, the title was just so stupid. It's like, flat earthers are wrong but not stupid. And you're like, what the fuck? They're profoundly stupid. If they think the only way you could know something is you have to physically, personally touch it is retarded. I mean, that's just so fucking dumb. Things because people take pictures of them. That's the easiest way to know there's an Eiffel Tower. I don't need to go all the way to France and actually physically touch the Eiffel Tower to know of its existence. I mean, this is rudimentary to function in the modern world. You're dumb as a caveman if you're sitting there thinking you need to personally lick it or personally kiss it or something, or it doesn't exist. I mean, that's just too fucking stupid. And, um, even the expectation that all knowledge would come in some personal experience. Like, I couldn't watch somebody else step into a bear trap and know that, oh yeah, bear traps aren't a good idea, don't step in them. I couldn't watch somebody else drown in quicksand and then know to avoid quicksand. I mean, there's nothing smart about somebody who needs to actually drown in quicksand to know drowning in quicksand sucks. That person's not smart. They shouldn't be implied to be anything but profoundly dysfunctional if they are going through the world being that much of a skeptic of any other source of information but personal experience. We watch it all the time. What happens to other people is how we learn, and that's just a fact. Now, it's a fact that a lot of people don't learn anything, right? They watch somebody else have an autistic kid, and then they go out and get pregnant tomorrow, and like, oh, I'm not going to have one because they already did it. They already autismed, on this street, so I don't have to worry because now I'm immune because there's already an autistic kid on the street or something. There's some irrational, silly notion that they have bought immunity through some magic. I mean, the stupidity is just so deep. And like I said, it would just be nice if we could just wear it, on a shirt, and then you'd know, oh, that's one of them. Oh, I can't make a rational argument because they're so fucking dumb. I mean, they haven't even gotten, I can't do multiplication and can't do anything complex because they can't do 2 plus 2. I mean, there's just no place to start. You have to start over. They're so fucking dumb. And frankly, I see it here. I'm living in more of a integrated modern neighborhood, and the thing that screams at you is moron. I mean, it's all over the place. Poor people are not just uglier, they smellier. Yeah, they are dumber, profoundly dumber. But anyway, just rich people suck. Don't get me wrong. They're just as evil. Okay, I'm just saying that it's clear poorness is not a good thing. It doesn't produce, doesn't know how, to do it right. It doesn't have any. We don't have any sensible instincts, and so if you don't learn how to be civilized, it's really easy to be uncivilized. Really easy. Apparently. I mean, just the car thing alone. People buy cars that are obnoxiously loud. I mean, not just a little bit loud, I mean, obnoxiously loud to go 25 miles an hour down a street. I mean, it just makes no sense. Alright, anyway. I mean, it's so stupid. You're just saying, I mean, it should be a flashing light on the car. Really so fucking stupid. Too stupid. There's just so many of them. The too stupid outnumber us. Us. Yeah. I give the audience, in the past, I have given them way too much credit. Because it's just, you just see it. The people who are, like, they don't seem quite as dumb, they're still really dumb. So anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, it is this communication thing, and obviously that's not a very good communication technique on my part, right? I mean, I should do everything I can to encourage participation and, some kind of perception that there's something valuable in listening to these words that my brain puts together and pukes to the world. That there's some reason that a person would be better off listening than not listening. And then that's the whole problem. I'm not seeing it that way. My brain is just saying, make the argument. You shouldn't have to package it in this pleasant way. It's just a box that needs to be opened. People need to discuss this stuff. And that's how my brain's looking at it, when no, this is really about just another part of the evil that people are so used to being sold that you have to sell them. You can't just put the perfect car on the lot and say, there, it's a perfect car. It's got everything, it does everything. No, you need to point to all this stuff and show them that it's better, because they're just too stupid to figure it out on their own. They can't see, oh yeah, it's got good tires. Tires are all rubbery and such, and, steering wheel turns, and, they can't figure it out for themselves. They need to be sold. They're just so used to being sold. Jesus. Yeah, that's another. All right. So anyway, yeah. So I guess we'll go to the nihilism stuff and we'll just marvel at how just ludicrous conversation is going to be, because you have to have it with people who are just so far from being reasonable. So it begins with hello in Mendham. So this is somebody who knows. I think nihilism is the scum of the earth philosophy. It's worse than religion. It's just the worst possible philosophical perspective anything could ever possibly fall on and state and admit to and defend. It's just so vacuous and retarded. It's such babble. Hello in Mendham. Fuck you. Hope you are doing well. I don't know why you would bother with that. I mean, first you should know that hoping is useless and that your trideism isn't going to mean shit to me, because I already know that hope is useless. And again, why? If you're a nihilist, why would you use that kind of language? That's like, should be baby talk to you. Just repulsive, repugnant baby talk. Anyway, I'm just emailing you to ask why you have such a hatred for nihilism. Well, because everything that could possibly be meaningful to me, you are saying is not meaningful. So everything that's in the category of something I recognize as valuable and in need of protection and in need of cleaning, everything I'm claiming is broken, you think is just fine. I mean, how graphically would I have to illustrate it? You think it's okay if things are being tortured. I clearly don't think it's okay. I think it's like so evil you have a war and kill the fuckers. Jesus, stupid fucker. In its purest form, you just have a selfish lunatic rationalizing an excuse to pretend not to notice that his life has implications. That's it. There's nothing else happening. You're just so fucking selfish that you're making a whole philosophy that somehow attempts to defend your selfishness, and that's it. You're trying to negate the existence of all the other feeling things in the universe so you can pretend you're the only one that matters. There's nothing else you're doing. I mean, you're doing it right in front of me. I can see what you're doing, okay? You're not hiding it behind your brain coat is, transparent to my vision. I can see what you're doing. Nihilism is recognition that there is no distinctions in the absence of one who defines the distinction. So the seer makes the thing a thing, and it's not a thing without the seer. So until human beings named ants, when is the magic moment that ants became ants? The human being had to show up and say ant. I mean, it's just too stupid a philosophy. The moon was the moon long before we showed up to say moon. It's just not absolute nonsense. And you say the recognition. It's the recognition that there is no distinctions without a distinctor. It's just too stupid an argument. I mean, you can't see how that doesn't make any sense, that everything in the universe would still be the universe. You really think that if the earth blew up, then the universe doesn't exist because now we don't have distinctors in the universe anymore? I mean, I just don't understand how your brain can go that sideways. How can you believe that? I mean, how can you actually believe? How can you have such a perverse and insane notion of what your brain is doing that you actually think it's making reality reality? Reality wouldn't be reality without your brain in the universe. I mean, fuck, that's dumb. I don't even know how to argue it. It's so dumb. Well, we'll see if I can find an argument somewhere in here. I can't see why you would hate people who have this recognition so much. Again, this recognition. There's no recognition. You're making a fake and phony assertion that the moon doesn't exist if humans never evolved. It's idiotic that the sun never existed, that evolution never took place, that, you know, all of that. You're making an assertion that's so fucking nonsensical. You're not recognizing anything. You're just making a crazy proclamation. You know, you're just basically saying something completely ludicrous. You know, why don't you just claim that you're 100 feet tall? Why don't you just make some other ludicrous claim? I mean, it's too stupid. All right, a nihilist can, again, he uses the word recognize, as if he's discovered the truth, as if he's revealed the truth that somehow things don't exist unless we somehow acknowledge their existence. So, like, before platypuses were discovered by humans, they didn't exist. You know, I mean, it's that fucking stupid. Anyway, a nihilist can recognize subjective value and objective value just fine. You can't recognize value just fine, so there's no point in having that, you know, conversation. You don't care whether it's objective or subjective. You think both don't exist. You have no definition of an objective value. You don't, except I'm hungry, feed me, me now. You don't have any understanding of the concept that something becomes valuable when it can be harmed, and that there isn't any other value outside of that. Without the capacity to be put in some lower degraded state of being, that is, feeling something negative, how is it possible to have any value? I mean, if nothing can be put in a lesser state, how could there be value? It can't. Anyway, it's just understanding that both of them are contrived. So again, he just said it, right? So why even make a distinction between subjective and objective when you're going to say they're contrived? We don't contrive the existence of the moon. And I'm certainly not contriving the existence of other sentient brains on this planet. I mean, I'm not contriving, okay, the existence that other people are feeling beings just like me. That I'm not doing something magical and independent of the universe. I'm not different. I'm made of the same stuff. The function is basically the same. Yes, I say different stuff. I, look different, might smell different, might do a few things subtly different, but the basic function is the same in the sense that we're all sitting here trying to be comfortable, trying not to be uncomfortable, avoiding pain and suffering as best we can with the tools that we have. So how is it contrived? What am I contriving? And then when I understand that the future is going to have a certain, there's millions of people going to be in the future and they have to live in the world we make. And so if we put a bunch of poison in the environment, they can't drink the water, that's going to be a real problem. I mean, pissing in my own water, the water I drink, I can understand that, pissing in somebody else's water is just as bad. And that if there's even more people going to be affected, that's even worse then, because now I've made polluted water for hundreds or thousands or millions. How is that contriving something, moron? Insane. You're an insane person. I don't even know. There's no point in calling you a moron because you're dumber than moron. I mean, again, how? It's just. I've asked these questions already before. You're not answering any of them. You're just proclaiming that you've recognized some truth. And it's not the truth. We don't create reality. Reality exists, and we interact with it. And there's an identifiable distinction between pieces of chalk and sentient creatures. It's just a fact. I can identify the differences, and I can identify why there's reason to take one's welfare seriously and not pay much attention at all to the other one's welfare. Alright. Alright, the only thing contrived from consciousness. And by the way, the only thing that actually matters to a nihilist is the quality of consciousness in the present moment. So again, you think that makes sense. You think nihilists won't even agree with you, because nihilists put money in the bank. They do things today for the benefit of tomorrow. They don't do everything thinking it has to have immediate, right now, productive for them consequences. Nihilists aren't going to agree with you, so you're not even talking in any kind of rational way in defense of nihilism, because there's plenty of nihilists who understand they're going to probably be here a year from now, and they eat their vegetables and do certain things to prevent their arteries from clogging or some other kind of, they do all the preventative maintenance. So you're just lying. You do it yourself. You certainly invest in tomorrow. You'll buy something online, I'm sure, and it doesn't get here for days. So clearly you're not living for the moment, asshole. You're just a liar. Alright. So I don't know, why do you write this crap? I mean, why do you, it's so fucking obviously stupid. Ugh. Jeez. And by the way, the only thing that actually matters to a nihilist is the quality of consciousness in the present moment, because that's all there is. The present moment is the thing that actually doesn't exist, shithead. The past and the present bang into each other. I mean, the past and the future bang into each other. And the present is just this thing that's so, it disappears in a Planck constant, in some sort of tiny, tiny amount of time. The present has just so little meaning. It just can't really be a consideration. It's such a tiny amount of space. So that's just horseshit too. And even if we granted the present a second, or we said a minute, that present is still such a small part of your life that it would be silly to try to keep up with the present. You can't even tell some things. You can't even tell what you have, what your problems are in the present, because you can have a condition where you feel okay, and then a few minutes later you don't feel too good, and then you feel okay, and then you don't feel too good. You'll go insane sitting there trying to say I'm fine when you're not going to be in 3 minutes. Anyway, I mean, you burn your finger, for example. It's going to hurt. 3 minutes from now, it's going to hurt a lot more than it hurt when you did it. Anyway, it's funny that you assign nihilism a lot of biased meanings. There's nothing biased. There's just, first, it's a silly concept. It's a stupid word, nihilism. What does it even mean? It's denialism. I mean, you should accurately describe what your philosophy is. You're denying the meaning of everything else in the universe except for you. And that's it. You're pretending you're meaningful. Your feelings are meaningful, and all the other ones don't exist. They're cartoons. They're drawings on a piece of paper. They're synthetic. It's a stupid little, CGI fantasy. You're pretending that the characters have all been created out of some synthetic thing, and that you're the only original. Anyway, it's funny that you assign nihilism a lot of biased meanings when, ironically, that's the exact implication of nihilism. So that's not even a rational sentence. I assign nihilism a lot of biased meanings when, ironically, that's the exact implication of nihilism. Biased meanings? What? Your sentence is so broken. There's no way to figure out what you're talking about. The implication of nihilism is creating biased meanings? So I think maybe you're trying to say that nihilism says there are biased meanings. So when I see the moon, I'm biased. I've perverted it. I don't know what it really is. You're just saying that any recognition of something else's component parts and its pieces and its reality is somehow a biased impression, that I've somehow cheated the truth by recognizing that a turtle is a turtle and that it has a brain and that it has sensations. I've cheated the truth somewhere. No. That other humans have brains, there's sensations, they went through maturation, they developed a perception of an ego and all that kind of crap, and they went through their own little psychological horseshit. That's a biased definition because it acknowledges the thing is actually functioning and has parts. Is that why it's biased? Is because it doesn't agree with your need to disqualify the existence of everything else in the universe? Except for you? I mean, it's so stupid. Yes, the implication of nihilism is you think anybody who recognizes reality is cheating, is biased, is corrupt. They're not being fair to your reality, which is, I'm going to deny the existence of its brain, and I'm going to deny the existence of its function. I'm going to pretend I don't have the science to know better. There's nothing else to say to that. Designation of distinction. What is that? What the hell does that mean? Just gibberish. So anyway, this just keeps reoccurring, and you're just saying, I wonder why the nihilists feel some need to defend themselves to me when their defenses are so bad. I mean, they just make my point for me, that this guy is saying nothing besides, I'm so fucking selfish that I'm going to deny the existence of all the other things that are doing exactly what I am doing. They're trying to feel better. And I'm only going to think my feeling better is the only feeling better that matters. And everything else can go fuck itself, so to speak. I mean, it can feel anything and be subjected to anything, and it can't possibly mean anything because the only thing that means anything is what I feel. And that's just too stupid. Now, clearly, I've made clear arguments that indicate I have some, I'm not too pleased with how people use logic conventionally. I've made it quite clear I don't buy this whole, my child is important, somebody else's child isn't important. I mean, that's just such a grotesque bias, such an obvious subjective bias. Somehow my child's more important than other people's child. But that's a nihilist perception. That's because they haven't recognized the truth. They have recognized the falsehood, a fake, phony pile of shit, again, associated with their own. Thinking, I have to make sure my kid can cheat in the race, and my kid has every advantage, and my kid blah, 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 blah. When every single one of those kids are exactly in the same position, they're the ones that have the qualities, the characteristics, the parts. And we parents just sit there and in an irrational way attempt to defend some ludicrous argument that somehow their kids are more entitled, that their kid is more important, when they can't make a rational argument showing how it could possibly be more important, or how it could possibly be more valuable, or more in need of instruction, and more in need of entertainment, and more in need of comfort, or more in need of a better parent. Any of those things. It's completely irrational crap. But it doesn't, again, so I'm pointing out that that's nihilism. That's a form of nihilism. You're the exaggerators. You're the distorters of the truth. By attempting to sit there and say you're important, or your kind is important, or your race is important, or your country is important, and all that horse shit. When you can't make those arguments in that way, you have to make them in some kind of rational way, like your country is more likely to clean up the world, or your country is more likely to create a better end 200 years from now, the planet will be a more civilized place if your country wins. You can make that kind of argument, but you can't just make this argument that it's America right or wrong. I mean, those are retarded and stupid and silly notions. You have to defend the crap you're going to assert. So you defend nothing. So you don't explain how there's any rational way to negate the true existence, the true circumstances of your existence, that you aren't special, that you aren't in some way tremendously distinctive from all the other hatched humans, and that all you can say is there's a bunch of superficial differences, but there's no substantial difference in terms of the basic functions, and that in the end there's just going to be stuff was going to be felt. People are going to have experiences, and in the end the only rational thing to do is to figure out what plan of action creates the least amount of torture. That the first objective is to get rid of the worst events, and then you can start worrying about elevating your pleasure. First get rid of the worst of the horrors, the worst of the trespasses, the worst of the torture. It's a simple enough word. And then start applying concepts like fairness and deserve and earn and all that kind of stuff would be nice. And just as a way to encourage people to do the right thing, and create a more civilized and decent society. But nihilism won't do that. A bunch of assholes like you thinking I'm the only one that matters isn't going to do that. And it's certainly not going to build a better future. So most of the human race will be put in quicksand. You're just pushing the future into quicksand with your selfish attitude. How is it any different? You're telling me, right to my face, as if it makes sense to you that it would be better to kill me than kill you. That somehow you already know that's the way it should work. That if something bad has to happen, it should happen to me, not you. And then you say, hello, amendum, hope you're doing well. Do you really? I don't think you do. Because the odds are, if I'm doing well, then you'll probably be doing less well. So it's not to your interest for me to do well. The weller I do, the less well you're likely to do. It's just logic again. If there's 10, well, let's just say there's one pretty woman in the world. Well, if I marry her, then you're out of luck, aren't you? So me doing well wouldn't be to your advantage. So I don't know why you say the crap you say, because it's hypocritical to your whole philosophy of you first. You idiot. Well, anyway, so enough of that. Just too stupid. Alright, so I guess I can just flounder around in this, stuck in the mode where you're saying, alright, you have to communicate with these people, but they're so fucking dumb, that it's so difficult to say, well, what kind of, how should I communicate with people this stupid? I mean, it's talking baby talk. It's so uncomfortable. It's just so, ooh, I have to do that? I have to do that na goo goo thingy back at, Ugh. It's embarrassing. But, the cause should motivate me to say, oh, okay, go ahead and do it. Hey, YouTubers, how you all doing? Super day, huh? I hope it's super where you are. It's super here. Love you so much. Couldn't do this without you, You're so great. You're so supportive. You're always there. Just go, I really have to do all that crap? And again, it would be just so disingenuous, so obnoxious to the actual points being made that, it's so almost defeating the purpose, because you're making a mess, trying to clean up a mess. It's like you're adding to the mess, in the theory that you're going to kill or cure or something. You know, you're creating a cure that's so obnoxious and bad that maybe it's not worth curing the disease if that's the price you got to pay for it. But obviously it would be in this case, no matter what it would take. Any clown suit should be wearable. So I don't know. You know, I just sit here and say I just don't know if I can devote my brain to those kinds of strategies. You know, that I would really have to be a fake and a phony to be real. You know, to send a real message, you have to do this horse shit. You have to dress it up in this slop. I'm just trying to think of analogies. I mean, there's some things, you know, I mean, you could give somebody a diamond in a, you know, ugly cardboard box or something. some kind of weird circumstance where, yeah, that's the game you got to play. You know, to sell the truth. I mean, to you know, manipulate this event, but somehow it can't happen in an honest way. It has to happen in this dishonest way. And I suppose, you know, there's probably is an analogy for that kind of thing, you know, where you have to do something that looks counterproductive, but it will be productive in the end. You know, there's probably some theory in flow dynamics or something where, you know, it's better to break the dam open. You know, a dam has holes in it. It's better to break it open all the way and then, you know, fix it. You know, some kind of thing like that. You know, than trying to patch it. You know, whatever. You know, because it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's just a matter of, and it's also nuanced, right? I mean, the magic of what moves the human race is just so arbitrary. You know, you can't really identify why Trump is president as one thing. You know, there's a few wacky circumstances of how we evolved to this point where this is an actual possibility. You know, that it's an actual happened event. And I could kind of argue that in the physics argument there's sort of parallels where Einstein became an icon and a source of truth, no matter how vacuous and empty the truth was. You know, the definition and the description. And so the hype itself is all you needed for people to end up believing. The very fact that religion still exists, you know, the computer age is almost got gray hair. You know, it's been around so long, and it didn't put a significant dent in it even. You know, it's you know, and you're just saying that should have been the end of it. That should have just finished it. Because the truth would be accessible to all, and it would reach everywhere, and people just couldn't pretend I didn't hear about this evolution theory. I mean, are there, you know, I'm sure there's still people, you know, on Earth that haven't, you know, been exposed to any kind of knowledge, but come on. It's not that big a percentage. You know, and people who are reasonably informed, you know, people who have grown up with television at least and the internet, and then you survey them and, you know, 30% pretend the moon landing didn't happen. I mean, you know, what? You know, it's just too stupid. And on no evidence, really. I mean, just the silliest of, oh, look, there's a reflection and it's left instead of right, or some stupid thing that you know there can be an explanation for. Just so bad. And smart people fall for this crap. So, I mean, I could go back to, you know, Darwin's hamster, who, you know, was a really smart, really, you know, had a physics degree, was a concert violinist, you know, lots of things. And he fell for it? I mean, fuck. You know, how the fuck does that happen? So I guess you go back to this, people actually want to believe this crap, and, you know, I guess that's part of where I have a disconnect, because there's never been a point in my life when I wanted to be full of shit, when I wanted to believe a lie. You know, I wanted the real story. I was really disappointed when I was a kid, right? Okay, so, you know, I did have this need to understand things. Well, anyway, there was this clock. I broke it like 4 times, and, you know, got into big trouble all the time. Besides, as a little kid, I'd crawl on top of the piano and try to figure out how the clock worked, because I thought it was magic. You know, the clock knew what time it was, and I'm saying, how the fuck does that clock know what time it is and I don't? Right? It's a stupid fucking clock, right? It's just a clock. You buy it at the store. How does it know what time it is? And then I found out, you know, finally, it doesn't know what time it is. It has no fucking clue what time it is. It's making time up. It's making a fake number up. It's trying to synthesize time. So that's where I got the idea of fake, you know, and plastic and cheating. It didn't know what time it was, right? At all. It was just making a mechanism that sort of duplicated time, you know, that sort of would match time a little bit, but it didn't know what time it was. So anyway, that's just an indication of how, you know, the subtlety of really, you know, I want the truth. I don't want some bullshit story. And apparently other people just don't care about that whole truth thing. They'll accept some silly story, some Jonah whale horse shit, some, you know, and why? Why? How does their brain allow them to function in a world where they have some doubts or some reason, a good reason to doubt they know anything, you know, because they really haven't challenged the clock to show it why it's telling time. They haven't really challenged anything to prove it has any integrity. They just accept these bullshit, these silly stories, the bent space, whatever the fuck that could possibly be. Even in 2 dimensions, it doesn't make any sense, in the sense that there's no fabrics in space. What do you mean? What are these fabrics you're bending? Where the hell are they connected? Where are they tied to? It doesn't make any sense. And then if I try to do it in 3 dimensions, you can't bend anything in 3 dimensions. It's just nonsense. That can't be the right answer. It's just way too stupid. Why do you people fall for that crap? God, just say the gremlins did it. Just say the angels did it. That makes more sense. I mean, the little angels, you know, and they flap their wings and push the earth into the sun. I mean, that makes more sense than bent fucking space. It's just so fucking stupid. And I marvel. I sit here, this is smart people fall for this shit. Okay, you got a 2-slit experiment, the little thing. There's multiple universes. Every time anything happens to a photon or an electron, there's a new universe created. It just doesn't make any sense. But it only makes sense in the sense that they don't think bent space counts. So the fact that, see, space isn't, you know, everything's not being measured every second. So they don't think there's actually some real force that's interacting every millisecond with everything. You know, that electrons are sitting. They actually think an electron is just sitting, right? And nothing happens for a while. Well, nothing's happening. You know, they could just sit there for like days or months. An electron could just be sitting there saying, hey, nobody's around. Nothing's happening. Nobody's interacting with me. I mean, no, it's a fucking interacting there's just not a moment where it's not, the agenda isn't being told where it's going to go and what it's going to do. It's constantly being bombarded with energy. It's constantly being changed in its position. It's constantly doing something. It's not sitting there not being measured. It's being measured every single bazillionth of a second. It's just silly. And then they have a whole philosophy built on this superposition bullshit, and it doesn't make any sense. And entanglement, this is the ESP. You know, the little particles have ESP and can figure out, what's my twin doing on the other side of the universe? I have special knowledge. I mean, it's just too fucking silly. So I mean, why am I arguing with a nihilist when, you know, everybody's fucking insane? They've fallen for such crap. Absolute steaming garbage. And the only reason why they fell for it, why? Because you didn't give them enough information to say it can't be true. I mean, if I did say gremlins did it, well, then you have to imagine the gremlin, and you can imagine, well, what kind of shoes is it wearing, and what if its shoes squeak, and some kind of way, some catch, you would figure out why. Oh, okay, it can't be gremlins because their shoes would squeak now and then, and so there's no way they could be perfectly sneaky, you know. But if I give you silly enough answer, I mean a silly enough concept, then you can't even imagine it, and so therefore you can't find fault with it because you can't imagine it. You can't imagine it. Oh yeah, it doesn't have sneakers, so that can't be a problem. Doesn't have arms and legs, doesn't have hair, doesn't have, you can just eliminate every single piece or way that it could be in any way flawed because you made it perfectly non-existent. As an explanation. It's just a non-existent explanation, so it can't possibly fail because it doesn't have any flaws because it doesn't have any attributes. But phew. So yeah, I don't know. Clearly some people get it. Okay, so there's whatever. I get the 1,000 views and forever. I guess that's what it'll be for till while I'm alive, I suppose. And this is all for some future to say, gee, it's too bad nobody paid any attention to him because, yeah, he was right. This all is nonsense, and people are living nonsensical lives, living based on nonsensical operating instructions, nonsensical notions of what they're doing and what they're accomplishing and what they're actually causing, that they don't really get what it is to be here and how to function in any kind of non-wasteful, efficient manner, that they're insanely inefficient, they're causing all kinds of harm, all kinds of pain and suffering will be endured because of stupid, idiotic notions in their stupid, idiotic heads. That's going to be the true story of life on Earth. That's the story is going to be, is that one of the life forms got intelligent enough to fix it, but he failed to be smart enough to know how to do it. Smart enough not to be too distracted by absolute nonsense and bullshit. This failed catastrophically to get it. But then I say that won't be the story, because the story will, the truth wins slowly but surely. I guess I'm arguing still. I mean, the religion thing is a damn good example of how maybe it can't win, maybe it won't win. But that one also gives you the evidence that, well, that's only because we keep creating humans who are allowed to function who are really dumb. And dumb people will keep breeding, and there'll be dumb people who are raising children, and that's really dumb. To allow dumb people to raise children is a dumb thing to do. So, yeah. So that's, the cause. I mean, it really wouldn't be an issue if dumb people didn't breed, because they're the only people making religion. Okay, they're the only ones indoctrinating and breaking human intelligence with silly notions. But again, they're not the only one, because the whole science thing has become another religion. Intellectuals have become ungrounded and incapable of accepting the ABCs of life, and they're turning it into some woolly, wacky story. And again, it's just that the story is so wacky, that you can't find fault with it, because you can't you can't find fault with it. It's the wrong way. At least somebody drew God, in a painting, so you got some idea, you can get some notion of what would God look like, or what would God be, or what is the whole point of this God thing. You could find all kinds of faults, as I have, with even the story. I mean, you go to heaven and forget everything you knew here, and I'm supposed to see some purpose in that. Somebody who doesn't remember all the life lessons is somehow going to go someplace and do something. I mean, it just doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's not going to be me then. It's going to be somebody entirely different. So what would be the point of sending somebody entirely different to heaven? Or to hell. So I guess if you go to hell, you still remember. Yeah, maybe that's how it works. Because again, what's the point of tormenting somebody who doesn't remember? I'm being tortured for the crimes I can't remember I committed. Yeah, well, that wouldn't make much sense. See, so you can find all kinds of fault with religious notions, but these wacky, made up notions of infinities and beyond, and these perfect invisible men you can create of dark matter, and multiverses, and it's just so bad. Just silly fantasies that have nothing to do with what the cold and clinical facts kind of point to, which is just a bunch of bugs. And we're on a bug planet. We are, in fact, definable as a kind of bug still. And we're capable of bug-like behavior. And there's only a tiny little part of us that's capable of fixing that and making us civilized and rational and smart and educated and give a damn about the truth and all that. And that part has to be fed, and unfortunately in idiocracy they starve that part of the human and feed the glutton and the pig and the moron and with all the fantasy notions of unsustainable bullshit. Stuff that just won't work. Diversity is fun. No, it really isn't going to be, and it's going to get worse and worse. The gangs are going to get bigger and bigger, and they're going to get more and more we want, and they're going to get more and more extortive, and they're going to burn down more shit, and they're going to put up more fences, and they're going to do more shit. So it's not going to get you anywhere. Anyway. But that's enough. So, yeah, I have to have a better... Obviously, this strategy of being a minor player, and, being small fish in small pond isn't, isn't too effective. But again, it's all part of writing the pamphlet, and having it be something the morons would be willing to read and have some reason to read. But again, the story it's going to tell them is so they're not even capable of digesting it. It's they're too stupid to really understand the meaning of their own word. Like I said, the nihilists who don't even understand what their word nihilism means. I mean, what it stands for is a philosophy, denialism. They think they're recognizing the truth by denying everything else's existence. The fact that everything has properties and I don't have to see it. I don't have to actually touch it for it to exist. It's just so stupid. All right, well, anyway. So, yeah, I am still hopeful that I'm leading up to something. But I can't define it. So, but it's I feel I have the working ingredients. It's just being a good enough chef. I'm something wrong in my procedure of cooking, and so I have to work on that. I have to think more about how I'm mixing rather than what I have acquired as ingredients, something like that. But anyway, it's your problem too, frankly. I mean, it's just kind of just tragic that all of it seems to fall. I mean, I shouldn't even have to be the chef. I mean, I went to I've been working, putting ingredients together. Isn't that enough? Haven't I already done my job? And I'm expected to have to be good at everything, and that's really annoying. I don't really want to be good at everything. I mean, I don't want this job. I didn't want any of these jobs, frankly. I don't. So I mean, I just thought of this the stuff that I don't even know how to make a video about it. This whole cat thing, the whole feral cat thing, you know, because I've tried to explain and people just are so obnoxious to hearing the truth. But they have to fix it. It's a real problem. I mean, there's kittens in my backyard now, living in my backyard. And there's no solution. There's no way to fix this, but to prevent it. There's no way to fix it. You have to prevent it. And you're not going to prevent it by wasting all the money that you could use preventing it. Okay, spend all that money cutting penises and vaginas up. Okay, that's not going to get the job done. You know, it's the other way, uteruses and nuts. But anyway, and throwing them back into this shit to eat garbage. It's not going to fix it. And I said, I don't even need to see anything more. I mean, I don't even need to see anything more than, you know, 4 kittens that just don't have a hope. You know, they're just doomed. They're going to be all tragic stories. Sad, tragic, sad stories. And, you know, that's enough to just say, fuck this bullshit. Why do you people think that price is okay to pay? Fuck you. You know, that's already too much. And it's just such a tiny, I'm embarrassed at how little and tiny a portion of the horror it represents. It's such a tiny portion. And it's too much. And I'm sitting here having to explain to people why, oh yeah, you got to be more, you know, sorry, you got to take some of this seriously somewhere. And they, you know, I mean, I shouldn't have to explain. But anyway, shouldn't have to. Nobody should vote for it. Everybody should know it's too broken. You just can't mess with this. You know, sentient organisms being obliged to feed on each other and fight and struggle for some frickin' temporary survival. Fuck that. Anyway. Now, I want to do more justice to the subject, but it just... all these horrible, terrible solutions because of people's silly fantasies that, oh, each little individual cat needs to exist because now it's here and it needs to... No, it doesn't. It needs to be prevented from being tortured. And if the only way to prevent it from being tortured is to stop it from living, then that's what you have to do. Oh, fuck.